So we've said for a while now that if Boris Johnson sees it as a politically favourable for him to essentially look at the Northern Ireland Agreement and literally tear it to shreds, then so be it. According to him, that is what he will do. And Boris Johnson is a man who does not follow the rules, shall we say, as someone else would do. He is a man who is driven by his very ideology, as are most of the Brexiteers. And again, that is the hardcore Brexiteer line. Their ideology is all. Brussels must not exist in any way, shape or form in UK law, or have any of its so-called evil tendrils in any of the UK's pies anymore. And Britain must be seen to be going global. But if Britain truly wants to go global, then it must be seen as a reasonable partner, and a partner who will honour the promises that it makes. If Britain cannot do that in any way, shape or form, or even capacity, then there is no point pushing a brand of global Britain. What is the point of joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership if the Trans-Pacific Partnership later on down the line decides that, well, they're going to have their own version of, let's say, their own European Court of Justice? What will the Brexiteers' thoughts be on that? Because they were so up in arms against that type of institution being in the EU. But as we've said before, there are a lot of trade blocks now coming online. You've got the Trans-Pacific Partnership. There is the South African Union. There is the Caribbean Union. There's the South American Trade and Cooperation Partnership Agreement. All these new trade blocks that are coming online are in the mould of the EU. And every economist agrees that these new trade deals going on in the future are not going to be between just single countries. It is going to be about countries coming together to combine their economic power to get better deals. And these new bilateral deals with multiple countries are going to be the way of the future. So Britain deciding that it is going to, quote, do it alone and swim off into the future to do these tiny deals does not make any sense, especially when they are all modelled on the EU. And the EU is easily one of the most successful types of these partnerships. So obviously, all these future models are going to follow the EU. So it is inevitable that sooner or later, the Trans-Pacific Partnership will start to do things that the Brexiteers don't like. So what happens then? And let's face it, right from the very word go, Brexiteers have hated the Northern Ireland Protocol. But before we do jump into any more of this, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And as always, thanks very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. In fact, Kersey Kutang, the business secretary this week, stood up in Parliament and said that the Northern Ireland Protocol was a thing that could be, will not be there forever. And you're like, wait, hold on. The Northern Ireland Protocol is meant to be a permanent thing, because how do you solve the problem of Northern Ireland without having a hard border between these two, between the blocks? There has to be a border that goes somewhere. And of course, this all comes down to ideology, as we said at the beginning. And Boris Johnson is a man of ideology, as are the rest of these Brexiteers, which makes them people not to be trusted. Because at the end of the day, they will always go for their ideology. We already have seen this, that with their internal market bill, one that would break international law, break the withdrawal agreement that they had literally only just signed at that time, literally less than 2 months ago. One that Boris Johnson and the rest of his Brexiteer cronies had been crowing about how fantastic it was. And remember, to actually get to the point of the Northern Ireland Protocol took 4 years and 2 prime ministers to actually hammer out. So this by no means was a simple thing that was done in less than an hour. It took that amount of time to be able to negotiate something like the Northern Ireland Protocol. And Boris Johnson intends to tear it up. And if he does that, the rest of Britain's reputation as a respectable trade partner will go completely with it as well. There is no point to any other country than expecting the UK to then honour any of its promises if, let's say, it no longer becomes favourable to the UK. And luckily there are going to be some major consequences for this, of course. Not least, of course, from the EU. We already know that the EU hold a lot of far more cards than we do. For example, we talked about yesterday the Largo Convention, which basically ensures that decisions in the EU and in UK courts are enforceable in EU member state countries. If we are out of that, then that damages our huge legal industry service as well as the entire service economy that we are based on our country. That will go down straight down the pan. Jennifer Ardern, the leader of New Zealand, has said that if Britain does not honour the Northern Ireland Protocol, she will block Britain's entry into the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the CTPTP. She will block it straight up. And even now, at this moment in time, there is still no 100% guarantee that we are actually going to get into that block, let alone this block actually somehow change their laws to make it more favourable for UK exporters. Again, complete non-starter there to begin with. The other big one was the fact that during all the referendum, and indeed most of the Brexit talk itself, there was the big point of it being the big win for Brexit would be the US trade deal. But as we have said multiple times, there is a massive pro-Irish bloc in the Senate and in the Congress, and most importantly in the Democratic Party. And they would block any trade deal with the UK if the UK is seen to be screwing over Ireland. So, once again, there goes the benefits of Brexit. But of course, the idea that the Brexiteers want to keep the Northern Ireland Protocol, we are seeing it now. It's fantasy. They are intent on ripping up as much as they can with it and trying to get rid of it. But again, the question then becomes, you've got to have a border somewhere. This is the state that we've gotten into, where you've got to have a border somewhere. There's got to be checks at the border. So unless the UK were to join the European Customs Union or the single market and essentially ensure regulatory alignment with EU rules, then there has to be a border. But we've always heard constantly the noise of the Brexiteers intend to diverge. We haven't yet heard where they intend to diverge or what it is they exactly want to do with this newfound regulatory powers that they have. But they'll do it sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. And of course, that is where the damage will start to come. And of course, without a border, the EU can then not defend its own integrity of the single market. And the entire EU countries and their member states will defend the integrity of the single market. That is why there has to be a border. There has to be checks. There cannot be this Blade Runner sci-fi fantasy that the Brexiteers have of having a digital border, because no one border out there exists like that. No border could ever exist like that, because there has to be physical checks. There just has to be straight up physical checks. You know, how do you check veterinary stuff? How do you perform, checks on chemicals and things like that? Make sure they're safe. There has to be actual physical checks at a border somewhere, and it all comes down to, where is that border? And of course, it worries me to the state that Boris Johnson and his Brexiteers will sooner or later maybe just decide, for pure political purposes, just to rip up the Northern Ireland Protocol completely. And that is the very worrying thing. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.